another edition of the new ND Nation Radio.
We're going inside them. We're going outside them. Inside them and outside them. And when we get them on the run once, we're going to keep them on the run.
As number one goes down, Syracuse undefeated no more.
This is now top-notch college hockey.
Everything here at Notre Dame's been done on faith and a commitment to excellence. You are Notre Dame. You are special.
You were to impart some wisdom or some tips on the guys coming in.
I would probably say stay on top of your academics.
Broke out, he broke free at the 30, 35, 40. The Rocket is going to do it again.
And you're also going to walk out of here with a degree from the University of Notre Dame. In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself.
You know, this play like a champion sign, Rocket Ishmael's touched many times. Jerome Bettis has touched many times. You know, the best stadium you play in, I'm going to say Notre Dame.
We're going to get them on the run. We're going to go, 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 go. And we aren't going to stop until we go to that goal line. Don't forget, man, today's the day we're going to win.
How about that for an intro to the new ND Nation Radio live Thursday night, brought to you by the new NDNation.com. Welcome, everybody, to another installment. Following up from a very successful signing day episode, we're back this week, our normal time, our normal day. A good show today. We're going to be talking Notre Dame softball with a few special guests. But let's go ahead and introduce the great panel we have here on the new ND Nation Radio, starting with our co-host from right there in the good area of the South Bend, Indiana. He is the man. This is Jason Cripe. Jason, how are we doing this lovely Thursday evening?
We're doing really good, really good. Excited about the show, excited about upcoming stuff. Real happy to be here tonight. Let's get it going.
And now, let's not forget, guys, this is the man who actually just made that sweet new intro for us, puts our shows on YouTube. He is our go-to guy as of late. This is Steve Herring. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, good evening, guys. Great to be back. It's an exciting show, and I'm excited to talk to the softball coach and the players, and it's been fun researching them and finding more about, these student-athletes at ND. And, let's do this. Let's go.
Absolutely, guys. Let's go ahead and start talking some Notre Dame basketball, which I don't know if you heard, they're on a little bit of a roll lately. And by a little bit of a roll, I mean they've taken down everybody in sight. Last night, the Irish added another victim on the men's court, taking down the West Virginia Mountaineers in Morgantown, 55-51. A little low-scoring game, had its ugly moments, but the guys came through. Jason, what were your overall thoughts on the game last night?
Just got, a piece of advice to anybody else we face. West Virginia, you didn't hear much Cotton Eye Joe last night, and they certainly don't want to boo Heron Cody. They don't want to boo Cooley. He feeds off that. He'll go off. He did last night. He had a game-high 21 points and added 12 rebounds. The defense played really well. If you look at it, Kevin Jones was pretty much shut completely down in the first half and part of the second half. Truck Bryant, he couldn't find the keys, had 0 points in the game, and that's a guy who can really do damage to you. When once you shut those two guys down and really limit their three scores to 30 points total, that's good defense, and that's how you win games.
Yeah, that feels like every time I've talked about Notre Dame's men's basketball on this show, I've been saying, they're gritty, they're tough, they're finding ways to win. And last night, you're watching that second half, and they jump out to that big lead at halftime, and they're holding on. And then West Virginia goes on a run. You knew they were going to go on that run, and they caught back up and took that lead. And then, you couldn't even believe it. Notre Dame went so cold-blooded, just ran with the steal and the three, and hitting up, going up, and hitting their free throws and doing what they had to do. And it's a great win for the team, and it's a great win that, that type of win is so key when you get into March Madness and the tournament, and you need to be able to tough out at wins when you're not scoring and you're just getting it done. Notre Dame that is what they're doing. They're getting it done. It's not been pretty, but 5 wins in a row is what they need, and they put themselves from, maybe getting into the tournament. And there's no way right now. The tournament starts today. There's no question Notre Dame is in. They're not a bubble team anymore, and that's the way they need to keep going. So that's good news for the Irish.
One cool stat you can talk about this week might have been their best defensive week, going back to the Marquette game and then the game against West Virginia. The Irish, on the average, held those two opponents to only 55 points. So we're talking defense. That's what we're doing so well, I think. That's what we're playing so great. Plus, you're seeing people step up to go with Cooley. Eric Atkins has played really well. Pat, I'm probably going to butcher his last name. Everybody in Notre Dame is just going to hate me for this. Pat Conahan's played really well. I think he was Big East Player of the Week this week. They've done so much this week. It's it's really impressive to see just how much better they're getting game by game.
Yeah, they really are. And if you look at it, Notre Dame plays more of a Big Ten style of basketball, and that's especially with the burn offense. Your defense has got to be able to make stops. I mean, when you're in that burn defense, you're burning time, and you're not going to put up a lot of shot attempts yourself, which means you have to be able to get good looks, be patient, and also play good on the defensive side of the ball to limit their looks and how much damage they can do, when given opportunities. And Notre Dame really frustrated West Virginia last night with their patience, and in the last minute and 40 seconds, they had missed every 3-point attempt in I think in the second half up to that point or something like that crazy. Or no, they'd hit 2 up to that point, and then minute 40, and they drained 3 in a row. So to take the lead and the eventual win. So it was a great game to watch.
Yeah, I'll mention the name again, Jerry and Grant. I was absolutely blown away by the ice in his veins, and he hits the big 3, and he comes down and he steals, and he's coming up the court, and you're totally thinking, he's going to pull it up, he's going to run a play, they're going to waste some of the shot clock, and bam, just 26, 27 feet out behind the 3-point arc. Bang, and that really, it sealed the game. West Virginia really didn't threaten after that. They missed another couple shots. Cooley's grabbing rebounds, and it's just a full effort. You're seeing Abramitis, you're seeing Grant, you're seeing Connor. I'm going to mess up his name too. The freshman guard with the Irish last name that we're messing up on the new ND Nation radio. But everyone's doing their part, and that's really what this team is about. And it's been fun. Defensive basketball is going to win for them, and that's what they're going to keep doing going forward. And I'll tell you what, there's nobody in the tournament right now who's a 4, 5, or 6 seed wants to see Notre Dame as that 8, 9, 10, 11 seed they're facing in the first round. You do not want to be playing the Irish right now.
Hard-fought road win against a heck of a basketball team. I'm really proud of our group because we weathered a storm, Well,
I'll tell you what, obviously I have a lot of friends that are UK basketball fans. Myself, I have quite a bit of love for that university, but all my friends that are UK fans are strictly those diehard Kentucky basketball fans, the ones that tell you that Big Blue is the greatest thing that ever happened. I have a lot of them telling me that I've had a few people say that one team they wouldn't want to face right now is Notre Dame, and for that coming from fans of the number 1 team in the nation, that speaks to how well they're playing and everything they're doing right now.
Yeah, they really are. They're like Steve said earlier, they're very gritty, and Cooley, who I think I've commented before, earlier in the season, you wonder if he can even play, 20 minutes, and he's been the go-to guy, and Huggins had some stuff to say about him last night. Just nothing derogatory, but he said that basically the gist of it was that he really loves Herringgold's style of play, but that style of play, he should never score 21 against them, and he said one of their goals was to limit his rebounding, in which he had 12, and he had 7 offensive rebounds and 5 defensive, or vice versa. So they didn't keep him off the glass. He said he's got really good hands, and he said he's obviously very strong because he was really tossing guys around out there last night. So, and then the other guys, Atkins and Grant, are really starting to play well. Scott Martin's starting to get some confidence. So when all those things start clicking and these guys are executing, they're really going to be difficult to beat. I don't care who they're playing.
Yeah, one thing you really want to pay attention to is different from college basketball to college football. And in college basketball, it's all about, not if you get hot, but when you get hot. And Notre Dame is one of the hottest teams in the country. They're taking down top-ranked opponents. And they're going to go into another stretch of the schedule where they're going to have 2 home games and probably be favored in both of those and, solidify that tournament seed. And if they can keep up this hot streak, they're a team that's going to do some damage in March. So, looking ahead to the schedule, they definitely have a chance to finish out really strong and avenge a loss to Rutgers. And then they're going to head to Georgetown, who's number 11 right now, the next to last game of the regular season, and have a chance to put a really big statement before they head to the Big East tournament. So Notre Dame basketball is getting hot. If they stay hot, they're a team that is going to be reckoned with going forward.
Well, guys, we'll close out the men's basketball talk before we get into women's with this question right here. How much of it is because Mike Bray got rid of the turtleneck?
You know, I was talking to somebody about that today, and I can't remember if I remember correctly, and I can't remember who it was against, but I think it was a road game where I was listening to it on the local radio here, and they said something about him not having it and kind of made a joke about he must have lost a bag of luggage, on the trip. And I can't remember what game it was, but if I remember right, it was an upset win on the road, and I don't think he's worn the Mach T since. So if that's true, then we may have seen the end of the Mach T.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to Coach Bray, it's just he's really showing his colors this year as one of the more elite coaches in college basketball. And, this team came out the gate with they were losing. They had some tough losses. They had some losses with personnel. And, he's really bringing the best out of a unit that, for what it's worth, is not at Kentucky. There's not a bunch of McDonald's All-Americans running all over the court. He's bringing guys together. He's doing a great job of getting the right minutes for the right players. And I've read many of the ESPN analysts and analysts around the country saying, Mike Bray has locked up the Big East Coach of the Year, and it's going to be well earned. I mean, 8-3 in the Big East, 5 wins against ranked opponents. And I don't think it's even going to be a question, one of those slam dunk choices at the end of the year when you go into the coaching awards. And he might be up for National Coach of the Year because, again, and you bring back the Kentucky part. Calipari's over there playing with 9, 10 of McDonald's All-Americans, and Bray is doing serious damage with guys he's got to work with. So, great job by Bray, and I think he's going to bring some more hardware to Notre Dame's men's basketball.
Can't help but agree with you there, guys. I think that this is a great move. He's a great coach, and it's great to have him here. I'm sure I could say any more great things about Coach Bray will come out for the next couple of weeks. Let's talk a little women's basketball. The girls are doing what they've been doing. You can't argue with 24-1. Well, this week, the latest victim was the Syracuse Orange, going into Syracuse and winning by a big 19 points, winning 74-55. The big player for the team was Deborah Peters, getting 21 points, 16 boards, 4 blocks, 2 assists, and 2 steals. Now, I'm not a basketball expert, but I'd say that's a pretty good game.
It's a real good game, and it's nice to see. One thing that talk about Dev, she's really been playing well, and it's it's really been a lot of the ladies are really stepping up. And one thing I think you notice is that Skylar seems to become, not that I want to ever say she shoots too much, but she seems to enjoy getting the assists. She seems to enjoy being the one to not only score but put people in position to score. So yeah, they're rolling. I don't expect anything less out of them. The way they've been playing this season, some people might think that 19 points really isn't that much of a win for them, and within some of these blowout wins, that seems to be the case. But no, it's a great win, and they're going to keep rolling. Buffett's got these young ladies where they need to be, and they're tough and they're gritty just like the men. And I think both of these teams, the women obviously are a lock for the NCAA tournament. The men, I think, are they're right there too, as long as they keep it up. And but the ladies are going to go deep in the tournament, if not win the whole thing. And the Big East is theirs to take. So it's exciting basketball to watch.
Yeah, there's something definitely to be said that the women are trotting out on the court every night, and they've been doing it every night for a long time now, where they're the best team on the floor, and they look like the best team on the floor, and they're dominating their opponents, and they haven't had, that classic slip-up game where they're playing an opponent that's beneath them, and they play to that level. They're not doing that. They're playing at their level and blowing people out, and they're crushing, top 25 teams, and it's, you hope that they can keep that up another 5 games, and then they're going to head down to Connecticut and get one last shot at UConn before the tournament. And I think that's going to be pretty exciting. And you're going to have a gauge of where they're going heading into March Madness when they take on UConn again and try and sweep them in league play and finish them off. We all remember the awesome overtime game on January 7th, and we can hopefully blow them out and just really flex their muscle and show that they're prepared to make another national championship run.
How amazing would that be, man? Just look at the girls they're doing right now. It's just unbelievable how well they're playing. This week they have West Virginia, like Steve said, going to the schedule. It's a lot to look forward to still. This is a team that you kind of, you don't want to say it, you don't want to have the fear that they could be the team that does, tire down. But, it's normally when these teams that are hot this late in the year, it takes a lot to stay hot. But I think that these girls have enough of what it takes to be that team that stays hot.
Yeah, they definitely do. They've it's one of those things where the only team they lost to, as we all know, is the number one team in the country, and that was, I think that was a motivating tool for them actually to, they played great basketball ever since there. They really haven't had a slip up. Obviously they haven't been beaten again. They definitely have the goods to stay hot. They're deep. They got a lot of great players on that team. Muffat's a great coach, so they've got the momentum right now, and barring any silly mistakes, that they can definitely win out. I can definitely see them winning out, and I'd love to see them face Baylor again. At this point in time, I think the Irish ladies are better than Baylor.
Yeah, it's a different contrast compared to men's basketball, where you feel like the whole top 25 is still kind of sorting itself out, and Kentucky's number one, but they really haven't been blowing anybody out. They're just winning. On the women's side, I really feel as if everyone can accept, we all want to see Notre Dame-Baylor national championship game. That's what we want to see. We want to see a rematch. We want to see a neutral site game and see what Notre Dame can do against the top team in the country. But they have to finish strong. I highly doubt, barring a massive meltdown, the team is still going to be a number one seed in the tournament. They're going to be a heavy favorite to get to that final game. And, that's what we want to see. I want to see them go against Brittany Griner and Baylor and have their last win revenge their only loss, and that would be a storybook season. But they definitely, you have to give them credit. They've remained focused. They're taking care of business, and that's what elite championship teams do. And Notre Dame fans are lucky to be a part of this team right now.
Yeah, well, one of the things that you notice about the women, and you're starting to see it with the guys too. They're having a lot of fun out there. They're cool. They're composed. They don't get rattled. When you're blowing people out like that, it's pretty easy to have fun. But they've got that confidence ever since, from way early on in the season. They've had that confidence. Now the men are getting it too. So it's really a great time to watch. Both teams play. So yeah, definitely interesting.
It is, man. They have a lot of good and a lot of favorable games coming up too. I think, granted, every game for them probably right now is favorable, but with West Virginia on Sunday, and then on Tuesday they're right back at it playing Providence, and then next weekend you got them going to the Yum Center playing at Louisville, which I'm probably going to do my best to attend that game. It's a lot. These are some big games for them. If this team ends up 31-1, I think I might literally go insane from excitement.
Yeah, they're. I try not to miss any game. If it's on TV, I watch it. If it's not televised and you can't catch it on UND.com, I'll just sit down in the car out there and put it on the AM radio and listen to it. So yeah, it's definitely a fun time right now.
It's an interesting thing when you think about basketball and even sports like hockey and baseball, where losing is typically part of the equation, and you almost think that if Notre Dame's women's team went 31-1 and they avenge their loss in the national championship against Baylor, that'd almost be cooler and more fun as a fan and a player than them actually going undefeated. So I think that's a dream scenario for all the Irish fans. Get to the final, get to play national champion, most dominant player as well. They do have the most dominant player in the game, Brittany Griner, and take them down on the biggest stage. That would just be perfect. That would be the perfect season for women's basketball.
Absolutely. Well, folks, I just want to let you know we will be having our guest join us in about 10 minutes. As you know, we are going to be previewing Notre Dame softball as they start their season on the 17th. We'll have assistant coach Lizzy Lemire, as far as Kasey O'Connor and Brittany O'Donnell. They're going to be coming on the show talking with us about their upcoming season, and we have a lot of excitement there. But, guys, we also have a big show to pitch for next week's episode. Hopefully by then I can get all this together. We will be having a big special 90-minute show where we're going to have two great guests on the show, including former Notre Dame athlete Oscar McBride. Oscar was a member of that great 93 Notre Dame team that beat Florida State. And former Notre Dame athlete and current boxer, undefeated pro boxer, Mike Lee. So we have a big show next week, I know, and then this week also. We have a great lineup. Guys, I'm really looking forward to what's going on in the next few weeks for the new ND Nation.
Yeah, definitely. For me personally, I grew up with boxing. My dad was a fan of boxing, and I remember as a kid watching Sugar Ray and Marvin Hagler and those kind of guys. Jerry Cooney, I remember watching him get beat on quite often. And obviously Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Roy Jones Jr. happens to be my all-time favorite boxer, and even today you get the Klitschko's and those guys. So I'm a huge fan of boxing. I'm a big Mike Lee fan. I've got to watch some of his fights, and some clips of him fighting. He's really talented, and he's definitely going to be a great guest. And then Oscar McBride, obviously a former Notre Dame football player, and a big part of the Play Like a Champion organization. So it's going to be great having him on as we really start to kick into high gear with the Play Like a Champion Uganda effort that we're putting together, and there's a lot of good stuff going on there. We're can't go into it too much, but there's donations are starting to come in for some great Notre Dame items that'll be in our raffle to benefit Play Like a Champion Uganda. Our goal is to raise $10,000 to build the new Hopeful School in the village, and that would be a major accomplishment for the Notre Dame family here with the new ND Nation. So looking forward to the next week's show. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to talk to Mike Lee, and if you're on Twitter at all, and if you follow more than 2 or 3 Notre Dame affiliated persons, you're going to hear a lot about him. And last time he fought, I know it was a big event for the campus. I'm going to say this: I'm pumped up to talk to Oscar McBride. I don't think I can tell the story a lot through the time on this radio show, but when I was growing up, I actually had an uncut sheet of football cards of the '93 team hanging above my bed pretty much my whole childhood. So he was hanging up above my bed my whole childhood, and it's going to be totally wild to talk to him. And that's probably my favorite team ever, that '93 team. And what a gritty! You talk about gritty. That was a gritty bunch right there. So great stuff. And I'm one of the fans with Jason and the Play Like a Champion Uganda. I'm excited to hear more about that. I'm excited to see pictures and videos and put them on our YouTube broadcast and then get more awareness about that project out there to the new ND Nation and the followers. So, hey, I'm pumped up. I'm hearing about some of this for the first time myself. So, hey, go Irish. Let's do this.
Yeah, I cannot wait for next week's show. We got a lot to do. But let's go ahead and take a few minutes here, guys. Let's go ahead and congratulate a former Notre Dame alum this week. And I think you can't talk about this past Super Bowl Sunday without saying the name Justin Tuck. What a game he had for the New York Giants. I couldn't be happy for the guy to get his second Super Bowl ring and really be the big player in the game. I mean, granted, Eli Manning got the MVP, but what a game Justin played, getting the opening hurry to get the safety, having a couple sacks, getting in the backfield, making big plays for the Giants. For all of us here at the New ND Nation, I know that Jason and Steve will have some great things to say about Justin as well. We want to say congratulations to Justin, congratulations to the New York Giants, and Justin did a hell of a job representing Notre Dame out there.
Oh, he absolutely did. A friend of mine, and a coworker, good friends with, had actually got to attend the Super Bowl, and he's a huge New York Giants fan. And when Justin made that play to cause the grounding call in the end zone for the safety to open the scoring for the Giants, I texted him right then, and I said, Justin Tuck may have just won this game for you, and then it turns out that it wasn't too far off. It was it was something that I think it sparked him, and it was great to see him get that pressure on Brady, and he did a lot getting in the backfield and making Mrs. or Mr. Bootchin or whatever this woman's name is uncomfortable back there. So yeah, I got to see him sit down a little bit. So it was great effort for Justin.
So that's the first supermodel reference here on the new ND Nation radio and mentioned in Tom Brady's wife.
I think so.
Yeah, talking about Justin Tuck, I mean, you can't be more dominant on the biggest stage. The guy, he had 2 sacks, he had 2 more quarterback hits, And people forget this, he was the guy in Tom Brady's face on the safety that started the scoring for the Giants. So his name was up there. I mean, I'm sure he had votes by the people casting them for MVP. And in case you missed it, I included the clip on my own blog. He went on Jimmy Fallon that night, and Jimmy Fallon asked Justin Tuck, what would you tell 9-year-old Justin, who was possibly going to play in the Super Bowl? And he said, I would tell Eli Manning not to stop stealing my Super Bowl MVPs, which, I was rolling in tears. He was awesome on the show, and he's kind of become the afterglow star of the Super Bowl. I turned on ESPN today, and they're doing a special about him and his relationship with a young kid from New Jersey who had come down with cancer, and he actually wears a wristband of this kid every day. He passed away recently, and he wasn't able to watch the Super Bowl, but it was a great special, and what a great representation of Notre Dame. He goes out on the biggest stage. He's just played incredible football. He was a key part of 2 Super Bowl winning teams, and it's just awesome. It's awesome, and he's easy to cheer for. So, congrats, Justin. The ND Nation is proud of you.
Man, aren't we really? It's amazing that, we knew that regardless of the Super Bowl outcome, we were going to have someone from that represents our university, I should say a graduate or an alum, holding a trophy between him and Sergio Brown. But just, the history of Notre Dame is really showing of getting into that big game. We're seeing guys that think it feels like year in and year out winning a ring. Granted, Ryan Grant did win one. Unfortunately, he was injured when the Packers got theirs. But for people to say that Notre Dame isn't much of a success story after their college days, I think guys like Justin Tucker proved them wrong right now.
Oh, absolutely. And, there's a lot of those guys out there that Anthony Fasano, is a name that comes to mind, and, Ryan Grant, and now, Justin Tuck. And, there's Notre Dame puts out, we're been known as, as tight end U, but, we got some other guys out there that are, really great players. I mean, you had Jerome Bettis out there who was just wreaked havoc. So, we do put out some good athletes, and it's great to see them out there at the next level, really performing and getting the accolades. So, yeah, definitely hats off to all those guys.
Yeah, there's no question that Notre Dame in the last decade has been notified a little less for players at the next level, but it's more because there's not a marquee quarterback. But Notre Dame's other positional players are everywhere, and we talked about this with Darren Walls, is almost every defensive back that he started with in his 4-year career is in the NFL, from Kyle McCarthy in the Broncos to Bukowski on the Ravens. You got Sergio Brown, who was in the Super Bowl playing with the Patriots, and then the guys that are going to be graduating this year, Walker Bland, Gary Gray, Harrison Smith, will all be in NFL training camps this coming summer. And I think that all 3 of them will probably make a roster. That's my personal prediction. And they're representing in the NFL. Maybe some of them aren't as big a name as they have been in the past, but there are guys on the team coming in. There's guys that are in the NFL, and Notre Dame does its thing in the NFL. There's no question about it. And Justin Tuck, he took care of everybody on this past Sunday, so we're okay in that area.
Yes, we are. Well, guys, we're going to go and welcome a couple of our guests to the episode of the new ND Nation Radio. These are 2 representatives of the women's softball team. Ladies, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great, thanks.
Welcome to the show. Go ahead and introduce yourself for everyone to hear you are.
I'm Brittany O'Donnell. I'm a junior pitcher from Avon, New Jersey.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the show, Brittany. I think we have the phone line shows there's another person. Is there someone with Brittany?
It's actually assistant coach Lizzy Lemire.
Okay, just making sure we have both on. Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you for joining us.
We should have one more joining us, too.
Yeah. Well, as soon as I get them, we'll definitely allow them on. We'll get them on there. So we'll go ahead and start with you guys. Starting the season next week. The one thing I thought was really interesting, your schedule. Your guys' first home game isn't until next month. I think is like 5 weeks to the season for your guys' first home game. What's the travel situation like for that? I know you're starting in some classics and some tournaments, but how's that going to go for you all?
Well, it's, South Bend with all the snow and everything, that's why our first home game's a little later in March. So we start off traveling where it's warm and we can really get out and play in some great sunshine.
Yeah, it's just, it's just kind of normal for us. We normally hit the road for the first 5 weeks of the season, and honestly, we don't mind it at all because the weather's still a little chilly here in South Bend, and it gets us out to warm places like Florida and California and North Carolina, where we can get on the road and just play softball. So it's great.
start with you, Brittany, here on the question. You had been quite a great year for your freshman year. Looking here at your stats, 2 complete games, going 7-3, having a great 371 run average. Those are pretty impressive splits. You don't even see some major league relievers get. How do you feel really contributes to your success? Because you guys have been quite the talent on that team, and you guys have been very impressed over the past couple seasons.
Part of a great pitcher is having great defense behind you and a great catcher, and just knowing that when the defense puts the ball in play, that you know and trust in your defense behind you that they can get it done on the field for you. So that's just a huge part of my game as a pitcher. Is I just know and trust in my defense tremendously to be there behind me.
And Coach Lemire, you're actually, from what I understand, you had quite a great career at Notre Dame also. Member of the U.S. National Softball Team, Big East Player of the Year. How easy was the situation for you to come back to Notre Dame to be an assistant coach?
It wasn't a difficult decision at all. I think, at the time I was working on the West Coast, not in the coaching realm at all, and the opportunity was posed, and I kind of knew always in my heart that I would return to Notre Dame someday. It just feels like home to me. So, when that happened and the opportunity came about, it was a pretty easy decision, especially to come back work with Coach Gumpf, who was my assistant while I was a player, and with Chris Ganoff, who was one of my teammates in college. So the 3 of us were extremely close, and it just made the decision really easy.
And let's go ahead and, if you both want to go ahead and give an analysis, I'm sure, going through this time. You're opening up the season this year against San Diego State, which I believe your first game is the 17th of February. From getting an understanding of that team, what can you tell us for the people that aren't familiar with college softball? What should we expect from watching Notre Dame play San Diego State?
You can expect a Notre Dame team that's going to go out there and just play to our potential right off the bat. We've been practicing, working so hard, and we're going to do our best to win every aspect of every inning of every game that we're going to go out there and play. So we're really excited to get out on the field.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I think that we usually the first couple weekends out, we've been practicing in our indoor facility. So it's definitely a challenge going out there because we're going against San Diego State, who's been outside and on dirt every single day. So we get really excited because we get to finally be outside and be on the dirt and be playing the game that we love. But also that first weekend, it's always just a good time to gather information and kind of see what we have and what we're dealing with and really just, like I said, just gather information, take that and get better from it. And in a 60-game season, that's kind of what you do. You just look to, improve every game. If you could just get one little bit better as every game passes.
Well, ladies, we also are joined by here, the one we were waiting for. Kasey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Well, thanks for joining us here on the new ND-Nation Radio.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I just thought it would be interesting for you guys to know we've had quite a few people that represent the university here athletics-wise. Kasey and Brittany, you two are the first actual current athletes of the university we've had on the show, so it's pretty cool to actually for us to interview some current athletes from the team, and it's pretty neat to have you guys be our first. We really appreciate your time on the show.
Thank you. We appreciate you having us.
Yeah. Well, Kasey, I'll get a few questions for you, and I'll pass the 3 of you off to my co-host Steve, because I know he has a few. You're going into your senior year. You've had a lot of great times at Notre Dame, some very successful years. What are your thoughts about going into this senior year? I know you guys have been working a lot about teamwork and getting a great positive attitude. Now, how's that transporting so far to practice and getting prepared for next weekend for your first game of the season?
I think so far it's been awesome. This preseason, everyone's come in every day with their heads up high, ready to get down and get ready to get to work, and I think it's really translating. This past week, I think we've had one of our best weeks of practice yet, and everyone's just raring to go.
And from looking at your stats, perhaps you can help me out here. It's looking like you're quite the player as far as me being the big baseball geek I am looking at stats. You seem like you're kind of the kind of player that gets a lot of extra base hits. Looking at your stats from last season, had 1 double, 2 triples, and a home run. Is that really are you just trying to go base by base, or is it really is that like what your goal is when you go into the games?
When I step into the box, really my goal is just I just clear my head and I just try and make contact. And when I'm feeling good at the plate, I just kind of go with whatever happens. And my goal is single up the middle every time. That's my mindset. That way I just don't get too far ahead of myself. But that's my goal every time, single up the middle, and whatever comes with it, I'll take it.
Well, ladies, I want to thank you for answering all my questions real quick. I'm sure I'll have some more in a few minutes. Go ahead and pass to my co-host, Steve. I know he had a few for you. So thanks again for joining us here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, it's Steve Herring here. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm going to go ahead and give my two-part question to Coach Lemire here. I'm actually with you from Orange County, California, but I'm a Notre Dame diehard at heart. Two-part question. When you were a prep, you were one of the superstars coming out of Woodbridge, and when you were being recruited to Notre Dame, what was selling you to go from Southern California, Sunshine Beaches, tanning, to South Bend, Indiana? What made you want to be a part of the Fighting Irish?
Well, it actually ran in the family. My great uncle Jack Elder, he actually played football for New Rockne back in 1929, and so I just started loving Notre Dame on the West Coast growing up. He and his wife, they retired in Santa Barbara, and they had 10 kids. So I'd go to these family reunions every weekend, and they played the fight song, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew I loved the song, and it just like everything about it. So I just kind of learned more about Notre Dame then, and then when I was in 8th grade, I went to summer camp there for softball, so that I kind of was able to attach an experience with a dream and just kind of made it my goal. So it really wasn't a difficult decision at all. I mean, because Notre Dame's such an infectious place and it's so powerful. So leaving Southern California was really not that hard.
Yeah, I could totally understand. It would have been an easy choice had I had the opportunity. But the second part of the question is, when you're out on the recruiting trail, I love to talk about the recruiting aspect of college athletics. And when you're going into a home in, say, Southern California or Florida or one of those sunshine states, and maybe they don't have the family relations and the father who played for New Rockne or the grandfather, how do you sell Notre Dame and South Bend and the weather to the students from around the country?
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame really, it sells itself. And, when we are in those situations with recruiting and we do have a West Coast kid, we don't shy around our weather at all because it is a reality and they have to, be able to deal with it during their 4 years. But we also let them know that, it's only a temporary experience and they can go away for 4 years and then, move back to California at the end of that or wherever, their warm weather environment is. But in addition, we just sell the lifelong decision of Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame, we say it all the time. It's not a 4-year decision. It's a 64-year decision. And, the benefit they will gain of coming to Notre Dame for 4 years out of their life will pay back for the rest of their life in ways that are, immeasurable. So it's like I said, it's not that hard of a sell, and people either they get it or they don't.
Thanks, Coach. I mean, I know that from experience it works. The best female athlete in my high school class was Carrie Wizen, who went on to play for the Irish.
Yep.
And she was class of 2005. So she was a friend of mine. I know that they can recruit out there, and it's just I love hearing about that kind of stuff. So, thank you for enlightening us, and I'll move on to the athletes over here. Okay, we got a New Jerseyan over here. It's also a place I have lived and worked. Let me ask you, New Jersey is kind of getting a different rap in America lately with the shows and the Jersey Shore. Tell us a little bit about your New Jersey, what New Jersey means to you, Brittany.
Well, I actually live on the shore. I live on Avon by the sea. So technically I am from the Jersey Shore. But when I go home, that's just a place where my family is, and I love to be whenever I am able to go home because my family is what got me to Notre Dame. They put everything they had into that. So when I go home, I just love being home. And it's just an awesome feeling to feel so welcomed when you go back to your hometown.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jersey. I lived in Hoboken for a couple of years while I worked in New York, and I love the area. And why don't you tell us a little bit as well, when you were getting recruited and you're living in New Jersey and you're going to go halfway across the country to South Bend, what made you want to become part of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish?
Well, when I was about 7 years old, my family and I came out for a Notre Dame football game against USC. And I stepped on campus at 7 or 8 years old, and I was like, Dad, Mom, I want to go to Notre Dame. So not really being competitive in softball at the time, my dream was to go to Notre Dame. And then once I started to become competitive in softball, it changed to I want to play softball at Notre Dame. So I started going to summer camps and contacting the coaches and playing an intense travel ball schedule. And then finally when I committed on the steps of the Golden Dome, and it was just such an unbelievable feeling to know that I was going to be part of such a huge Irish family that was so welcoming. And just the traditions that you experience just walking around campus and going to the grotto and seeing Touchdown Jesus, it's just something that you know it's right when you're walking around campus, just knowing that you're so fortunate to be a part of this.
Okay, last question I'll ask you about softball. So heading into the season, tell us what you're thinking as far as what you've done to prep for this season, what your expectations are in tournament play as far as the championships play. You guys are sitting right outside the top 25 in the preseason polls. Tell us what they expect out of you and the team this year.
As far as that goes, I expect us just to go out strong. I mean, we're working towards a national championship every day. That's our goal, is we practice hard enough so that we can be where we want to be at the end of the season. And just as far as I go out there and I throw ground balls, so I know that my defense behind me is gonna help us be where we need to be.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll move on to Kasey over here. Oh, yeah, hold on the line. I think we got one more. Our last co-host wants to talk to you. So, Kasey, I've got a question from the chat room. Kathy Angelo wanted to ask, you guys were in Australia. Do you have anything you'd like to tell us about that trip?
Australia was an awesome experience for our team. I think it really was a unique opportunity as far as team bonding goes, because not a lot of teams have that opportunity to go out of the country for a week all together, and I really thought that it brought our team together really nicely, and this is definitely one of the tightest bunch of girls that group of girls that I've been a part of team-wise, and I think it will speak volumes to how we play together this upcoming season.
We're all excited to check you guys out and, start talking about you more in the springtime on the radio. Question for you. I've never been on a team or on a campus that my co-host mentioned earlier. You guys are all over the country at the beginning of the year. What's it like with the fellow students who aren't traveling all the time? You guys are in California, North Carolina, Florida, California again. Is there any jealousy on the ND campus while you guys are leaving the snow behind for the sun?
I think there definitely is, especially indoor sports, because our hockey team, they just got back from Alaska, and they were telling stories about how cold it was there and everything, and then we're like, oh yeah, we're going to San Diego next week, and there's definitely a little bit of jealousy there. It's nice to be able to escape to a little bit of warm weather and then come back home to Notre Dame.
Yeah, you guys work your butts off anyways, and you deserve the chance, and they shouldn't be jealous of you. They get to hang out on the weekends and not do too much, and you guys are in the weight room and on the practice field. Kathy, who asked that question, wanted to make sure that you know that she follows you on Twitter. No, Kasey, she follows Kasey on Twitter. And Brittany, we're wondering do you have a Twitter account?
No, I don't.
Oh,
I don't have a Twitter account.
Okay, I'll go ahead. The last question by me is going to be to Kasey. Same question as over to Brittany. What are you expecting out of yourself and the team in the 2012 Notre Dame softball season?
I think the sky's the limit for the team. I think we're definitely looking to get to the College World Series, looking for that first national championship. As far as myself, I'm just looking to continue to improve every day and contribute as much as I can to the team.
Well, ladies, I thank you so much, and it's such a thrill to have actual student-athletes on the program, and I'm going to pass you on over to Jason. He's going to finish you guys up, so thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Hi guys, Jason from the new ND Nation here. Between Lynn Gilbert and myself, we're the two twits that are always tweeting at you guys and the Notre Dame athletics and everything else. Just wanted to again thank you for your time. This is really a great show for us to have some current student athletes on, So we appreciate that. And, one thing we always try to do is support every sport within the Notre Dame family. I think it's very important. And, we obviously want people to attend your games at Melissa Cook Stadium. It's a beautiful facility. How do you like the stadium there? It's a state-of-the-art facility and a really nice place to see a game. So how do you like playing there?
I love it. Yeah, I think it's like you said, one of the best facilities in the country. I couldn't really ask for more. We just got new covered batting cages this year, donated by the Demos, and it's just a great place to play.
Yeah, just to be able to go out onto that field with Notre Dame written across your chest on your jersey and being able to play in such a premier stadium, it's just truly a gift. It's unbelievable.
That's awesome. Yeah, and obviously, we like to tell people that whenever they're on campus and you guys are playing during around the spring game and that time, and if there's games during those times when people are out there, we always encourage them to go support all Notre Dame athletics and all of our student athletes. And again, we like Tim was saying, we've been blessed to have a lot of former students on. We had Melissa Henderson and Coach Walterman and Golden Tate and many other former student athletes. And after every interview, we always talk about it. And you guys are no exception to the rule. You're definitely a great asset to the university, and Notre Dame student athletes are definitely well respected, and you guys are top-notch student athletes out of and I've met a lot of them from other schools as well, and Notre Dame student athletes are excellent and very, very kind and giving. And I had the chance to meet Catherine Lux during the football season, and my wife and I, and she took us on a tour of her dorm, and was just really great. And that's something we've learned to expect from Notre Dame student athletes, and you guys are no exception. And we really appreciate the time, and anything we can ever help with, just feel free to let us know.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the support as well.
You got it.
All right, I'm going to jump in one quick thing, ladies. This is Steve again. I upload these interviews to YouTube. Lynn sent me a bunch of photos from games and tournaments from last season, so make sure you guys check that out. It'll be the new ND Nation's Radio's channel on YouTube. And if you guys want to, you can send more pictures, and I can put them onto the video, or onto the video. And if you have more videos, send those as well. But make sure you tell your friends. You guys will be on YouTube soon.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Awesome.
Well, ladies, like I said, we thank you again for joining us here on the show. If you want to take a chance here, give everyone a shout-out, and tell us when we can expect to see Notre Dame softball soon.
You can expect to see us when we're home for our first home opener, or if you're on the road and we're playing somewhere nearby, that's where you'll see us. So come out and support the Irish. Go Irish.
Yes, we love all the support. Go Irish.
Absolutely. I always tell people we're the best-kept secret in town. So especially when we come home, or if we're traveling to anywhere near you, come out and check us out. And it's a fun game. It's a fun experience.
The secret out on the show today. Coach, ladies, best of luck this season. We'll be putting you guys in our highlights every week on the show. Thanks for joining us. Like Jay said, if you need anything from us, let us know.
Thank you very much.
So much.
You all have a nice night.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
So, guys, we have a first every week here on the show. That was the first time we actually had some student athletes on the show coming and talking to us. That was really impressive. Lynn also told me that Brittany and Kasey's parents also listen to the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, joining in. We really appreciate having your daughters on the show with us. Guys, what are your thoughts on interviewing Coach and her fine student athletes?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just a given anymore. You always expect it. You wouldn't expect any less from Notre Dame student athletes. It's how they are, and they're very good about talking with people, and again, it's a great interview, and obviously it's an honor for us to have some current student athletes come on the show. It's the nut that is Notre Dame sports information is not the easiest to crack. We've been trying a long time. We've had some success with Melissa Henderson when she was still was still playing for Notre Dame on our website. Had an interview with her there. So we've had a little success, and now we've had some more. And as this grows, it'll hopefully, we'll get some more, and it'll be, it'll be some really good stuff going forward. Not that it isn't now, but to have some current student athletes from time to time, as well as the players that we all know and respect from their days. It's a great time, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm having so much fun learning more about the programs and the athletic department and all the things involved in ND athletics. And I go to do my research for these girls and the coach, and it's, wow, the coach is from my county, and I lived in New Jersey, and I lived in New York, both the same as these girls. And you see the national footprint that Notre Dame has. And a girl who grew up in Southern California had a grandfather playing for New Rockney, and she's going to barbecues, and we're playing the Notre Dame fight song, and you got kids coast to coast, and loving Notre Dame, and it just has such an impact around the nation. And you pull up the roster, there's 9 different states represented on a team with less than 20 athletes. And it's just it's a lot of fun. I'm having fun researching these people, and everyone that comes on is generous, and they're happy to be on the show. And it's just a great experience, I think, for them, and maybe even more so for us.
And guys, if you want to keep it like we said, the women's softball team is starting next week, the 17th. They're playing at San Diego State. They're playing out in some nice warm area. Also, don't forget the Notre Dame men's baseball team also starting up next week. Their first game, same date, as being February 17th. They're playing Illinois in St. Petersburg. God, I bet it stinks so bad being in Florida in February.
Oh, what torture. I feel horrible for those guys and girls. Yeah, please don't ever allow me to have that opportunity. I may actually do it.
Well, you got to think that's part of the sales pitch is when they're talking to these kids from the Sunshine States is, hey, half the season we're going to be in the South or in California anyway, so just come on down. It'll be no big deal. But I'm sure, like I had to ask, I can't imagine being a normal student and watching every Thursday my roommate packing up her bags, and I'll be in South Carolina and I'll be in Florida for the next 4 days. Have a good weekend when they're snowed in, but I mean, that's part of athletics is the good and the bad, and that's an awesome thing for them.
It is, guys, and I could be happy for them. Well, guys, believe it or not, we've gotten to the 7-minute mark without saying the names Notre Dame and football in the same sentence.
Well, I think we should say something about Notre Dame and football. With Davonte Neal still on the table, I went and looked up some highlights. I was actually just looking at one a few minutes ago while Stephen and Tim were talking and to the ladies. And the first thing that comes up is he goes downfield about 25 yards, cuts, jumps in the air, catches the ball, comes down, gets stuck by this defensive back, rolls over him like he wasn't even there, and hits the second gear and is gone. This kid still being on the table is something to be excited about. And, Notre Dame's in this thought process, so hopefully that'll turn out for us.
Yeah, I mentioned on my Twitter, and I write about it all the time, I could talk Notre Dame football hours on end every day of the entire calendar. So I'll talk about them all day. And you were right, the Davonte Neal highlight film is very, very impressive. And just the fact that he's another West Coast, Arizona guy that's considering Notre Dame and continues to disprove the critics who say Notre Dame can't recruit at a national level. I mean, we follow it. We know that's not true. But, this guy's a high-profile guy. Everybody wants him. And, I already graded their class out at an A-, and I said if he comes on board, it's an A already. But this is a good class. And if he comes on board, it's icing on the cake, and it kind of pushes away the memories of some other aspects of signing day.
Yeah, that whole, I guess that guy's name's Greenberry or something guy. Yeah, I think, this whole, if we can get Davonte Neal, I think that could replace this guy in which I don't remember his name's spot on the roster. I think I could be okay with that.
Yeah, could definitely live with that. Between Greenberry and the Twitter potty mouth, not taking him either. That's not getting Neal would be a huge get. So I'm sure the coaches are hitting him hard. So it's something to keep your fingers crossed about. That could be a huge addition to the roster.
Yeah, and when it comes to the commit who didn't come and other commits who went to other places, I mean, that's recruiting, everyone. It's going to happen every year. And for most fans, or actually for all fans, you should be over it. You sign the letter of intent. Move on down the road, everybody. Just keep going. The guys who are at Notre Dame are the guys that want to be there. And now we have to sit around and hope. And it's like signing day is a week extended. And we hope that Neal comes on board, but it's not the end of the world if he doesn't. So I'm excited about Notre Dame. I'm excited to start moving towards the spring game. And I'm ready to talk Irish football all the time. You can hit me up on my site or on Twitter as well. I'll always be proud to talk about Irish football.
Well, speaking of people who went elsewhere, see this clever transition I did here? Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw. I know Steve did. Jason, I'm sure you saw in the press over the past week too. But a certain football coach had a little comment to say about Gunnar Kiel in the last week. That being Les Miles, calling him the other recruit and saying that he wasn't man enough to come to LSU instead of going to Notre Dame. The one thing is, I'm not one to call out coaches for being respectful or disrespectful, but for everyone saying that all his comments about Greenberry weren't respectful, how do you describe Les Miles' comments about Gunnar Kiel from that situation?
In a word, unacceptable, in my opinion. Maybe it was a heat of the moment thing. I don't know. Maybe he was just irritated that he didn't get him. I don't. It was a 11th hour type thing. But still, Les Miles has got to think. Other recruits are seeing what you're saying. If you're going to talk like that about a recruit changes his mind, you may have some guys that are looking at you now for next year or the year after that might think, wow, is this guy that much of a jerk? So, it's just one of those things that factor in. I really couldn't believe it when I heard it. I thought it was pretty classless actually to go after him, like that, in public. But Les Miles is kind of an odd bird, so he did what he did, and it'll either cost him or it won't. But in my opinion, it wasn't called for at all.
I'm totally embarrassed for the LSU fan base and for him and for his family. There is no place in anywhere for a coach saying that about a high school kid. I mean, no place, none whatsoever. Unforgivable in my opinion. I think that if I'm a smart booster and I'm a smart part of that program, he needs to be reprimanded. I think that, that has to be wildly discouraged. And the funny thing is that it was one of those clips that kind of gets pulled up out of the private area, and that happened with Giselle Bundchen this week with Tom Brady comment. Only that she was talking to a small group of people she knew, and somebody with an iPhone with a great microphone caught it. Les Miles was up at a pep rally in front of a couple thousand people berating a high school kid who he recruited, and that kid would have had chest enough if he was sitting in class at LSU right now. But the kid changed his mind like hundreds and thousands of high school recruits do every single year. And he goes up there, and you know that someone is recording it. Probably 150 people are recording it. And he says that. I'm embarrassed for him. I'm totally embarrassed, and I'm not going to be able to root for him as a coach ever again.
So Steve's pretty strong on this feeling on there, and he brought up all my facts too. That I was going to bring up the fact that it's kind of funny to me that this is not in any way meaning to say that ESPN's biased against Notre Dame. I hear that all the time. I really don't agree with it, but because he said it about a guy going to Notre Dame, it's not a big deal. Let's say Brian Kelly goes out and says something about a guy like David Perkins, for example, who left Notre Dame to go to who decommitted from Notre Dame to go to Ohio State. If he says, well, he wasn't man enough to come to Notre Dame, what's everybody saying about Brian Kelly in the news that week?
Well, it is a different story. Notre Dame being Notre Dame, the negative, anything negative that comes out of Notre Dame or that's perceived as negative is always taken much further. I mean, you had the Charlie Weiss comment a few years ago at the spring game brunch where he said, "To hell with Michigan," and that got blown so far out of proportion. He was trying to hype up the crowd and the players and everything else, and maybe he shouldn't have said that, but he did. And that got blown up way more than this Les Miles thing has, in my opinion. And there's, if Brian Kelly would go after someone like that, it would be a much bigger deal. And the university would definitely look down on something like that much more than I think LSU would.
Well, there's absolutely no question that it would be a bigger story with, parlays and that whole thing. Is Notre Dame still relevant? Of course. Les Miles was the head coach of a team that went 13-0 in the SEC and played for the national championship, and it got a little buzz on ESPN and on Deadspin, and it buzzed for, a couple days. And Brian Kelly said that. First of all, I think the Notre Dame administration there would probably be discussions if he was going to be removed from coach, because that kind of, commentary and that kind of behavior is not acceptable. And that's why when you compare it to what Brian Kelly was saying about the Greenberry decommit, he was blunt, but everyone kept asking the same question. He kept giving the same response. I can't control guys who want to play somewhere else. I'm going to control the guys who are now signed on the dotted line to play at Notre Dame. And those are the guys I'm going to coach because they want to be here, which isn't disrespectful in any way. And that got some buzz online and buzz in other places. But what Les Miles said, Brian Kelly can't say that. He knows that. So I'm totally confident Brian Kelly will never say anything along those lines. And if he did, something would happen.
You're right, and I don't think he would either. I mean, people always talk about Kelly for the Twitter gate and everything like that. Well, he said something, he was frustrated, and I get it. It shouldn't have been said, but I think everyone's gotten over that, and this is something that, everyone's just going to brush off their shoulder because it is Les Miles, it is LSU, but it really is to the point where it is kind of ridiculous because, like we said, if that's something Kelly says, Notre Dame's in a lot of trouble. We're on TV every week, and, I'm glad, Steve, that you made that point of, well, of course, Notre Dame's still relevant. Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser on PTI a few weeks ago compared the Cowboys to Notre Dame, saying, well, they're just nothing more than a legacy. And, we have a few minutes here we're running over. I'm sure that this is going to be on our YouTube show, and I'm sure people will make this a great debate. And if you guys, we'll cut it short. Don't worry, we won't go 20 minutes into this like we could. But when people try to ask me if Notre Dame's still relevant, here's one thing I bring up. Is Notre Dame still on TV every Saturday on NBC? Yes. Is Notre Dame still getting ESPN 150 recruits? Yes. Is Notre Dame talked about in the off-season on College Game Day? Yes. Now, granted, Notre Dame hasn't been Notre Dame since Lou Holtz left. We've had great years, but we haven't reached that top tier that we're trying to be again. But don't ever try to tell me Notre Dame's not relevant.
No, that's a ridiculous argument. I've heard these other commentators that we're a legacy, we're irrelevant. Yeah, well, if we're irrelevant, then why are you talking about us every single week and have to get your jabs in and run your yap? This year I think you notice the duality of it all. ESPN in the years past has been all over Notre Dame, and you had Herb Street, and you got I can't think of his name now. Yeah, him too. Well, who at ESPN doesn't do it except Lou Holtz? But this year when ESPN was really hyped on Notre Dame, this is going to be Notre Dame's year, and they started to talk the other way, and then it didn't turn out the way it was. So now it's back to what it was. In the grand scheme of things, the only thing ESPN and really a lot of these major networks care about is what's going to get them ratings. And if Notre Dame will bring ratings, which equals money to ESPN, then ESPN is going to be a Notre Dame fan. And it's just how it works. It's unfortunate, and they'll trash talk who they have to trash talk to get ratings, and a lot of people like to beat up on Notre Dame. Well, I'm here to tell you, if Notre Dame is not irrelevant, they're not going to be irrelevant. This program is on the right track. We do have the right staff in place. We've got the right recruits coming in. We're trending upward. We've got a very high ceiling. Once the program, the foundation is built, this is going to be a great team again. And that's we always talk about tradition at Notre Dame, and people talk about hey, I don't want a jumbotron. Oh, hey, I don't want field turf. They talk about those types of traditions not changing. Well, let's get back to the tradition that made Notre Dame, and that's winning football. And let the haters hate; they're always going to do it. But one day, and I think in the very near future, they're not going to have much room to talk.
Yeah, I think that the Notre Dame is relevant argument is just an argument for sake of arguing, and if you're arguing about it, it matters. And Notre Dame always has mattered, and they always will matter. And ESPN and NBC and every other outlet in America, they're going to cover the topics and the teams and move the meter. And I think that Dallas Cowboys is a very good starting point. And I think if you put the Dallas Cowboys, Notre Dame, the New York Yankees, They move the meter on ratings. They move the meter on the feelings of the fans and the people watching at home. And, you know, the success you're talking about, we've been to 2 BCS games in the last 7 or 8 years. You know, we're putting guys in the pros every single year, and Notre Dame does matter. I don't think it's an argument anymore. And, you know, moving forward, I know Notre Dame is on the right track, and I don't know what that even means when Notre Dame is always elite. They're going to get the elite players, and Notre Dame is elite in everything, not just football, but academics and basketball and softball and everything else we cover. Notre Dame is striving to be the best in America at everything they do, and that's what matters, and that's why we have this show, because we love to talk about that.
You know, guys, maybe one week we should just take one of our hour episodes, just full-fledged, you know, no guests, just debate. Get this all out there, just rant, vent, talk about what we think about why this school and this football program is still relevant. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm for it. Maybe we can invite Les Miles and Mark May and Herb Street on to get their opinions on it too. Let them have a shot at explaining to our Notre Dame family exactly what they think. And I bet we have quite a few call-ins for that show. And it'd probably be R-rated, so that might not be a good idea.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we might have to move that to a different, PG-13 or R-rated broadcast. You know, what's funny for me is that growing up in SoCal and different areas I've lived, I've actually never had a close friend or even anyone I talk to on a regular basis who is a big Notre Dame fan. So I could go on hours every day. I could do this show every day of the week, and I could bring up new topics and just hash Notre Dame football and Notre Dame sports every day. But, hey, if you want to do it, I don't know when we should. I mean, we could probably go all day when spring practice starts and every day in football season. So sign me up. Whatever we're doing, I'm on board.
Great. So I think we're going to put that into future plans. Well, guys, we did run a little 10 minutes over today. We had a great show. First time ever where we had actual student athletes on the show. Really impressed by everything we did. Another great episode for us. So, guys, next week's a big show, 90 minutes. We're going to have Mike Lee. We're going to have Oscar McBride. A lot to look forward to. For everyone that tuned in tonight's show, thank you again. This show will also be available on YouTube, and we are working out the details, so pretty soon you will be able to listen to the new ND-Nation Radio from your iPod or iPhone. Yes, folks, we are making the transition to iTunes. Only a matter of time for the announcements made. So, guys, we had a great show tonight. Can't wait to talk with you guys next week.
Yeah, definitely. You got it. Go Irish.
Yeah, great show, and I'll kind of piggyback on what you were saying. YouTube hopefully will be up later tonight. If not, then earlier in the morning. It takes a little while to register all this stuff. As far as the iTunes, they actually have a review process with the podcast, so we're under review, and then hopefully by next week's show, but if not then after that, they're going to start being loaded up the podcast, and you can get them on your iPhone, like you said. So, we're moving up. We're growing, guys.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again for being my great co-host every week. And ladies and gentlemen, we end this show one way and one way only.
Go Irish.
Go Irish.
Go Irish.